Hey guys, welcome back to Living Life MD. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 things you need to know about RSV. Before we do that, I just have to have a confession. We tried this week to go out and about in town and tried to film this particular segment in our beautiful public library downtown. But as we went through the footage, we realized that there was a lot of background noise. And because it was a library, I was speaking too quietly, so the footage didn't work. I was really bummed about it because I was really I'm trying to up my game a little with the videoing, and it just didn't work out this time. So I'm going to continue to try to improve my video taking skills and trying to do some different things. Hopefully in the editing process I can add a few things in, like some music this time. So it's just a learning process. It's certainly a learning process for me, really having no skill whatsoever in doing this. So that's my confession, but I want to go ahead and move forward and talk about RSV. So the first thing you need to know about RSV is that it's a virus. It's actually from a family of viruses called orthopneumovirus. That is nothing anyone needs to know. I just kind of like saying orthopneumovirus. But it does come from that family of viruses. It does cause cold-like symptoms. And generally speaking, most people have it by age 2. It is one of those kinds of illnesses that you can get over and over again in your lifetime. So most of us have as a child. We have it again as older children and adulthood. And so it is easily transmissible. So the things you kind of see with it is runny nose, sometimes a lot of runny nose, like you're constantly wiping your child's nose, or you're constantly wiping your nose and it just keeps coming. Cough, sore throat, you can feel tired, shortness of breath and wheezing can also be a piece of this. And maybe a little fever here and there, certainly. So it's very much like a cold, maybe with the addition of a fever. It really is important to watch RSV in really young babies, children under the age of 2, infants, any child that has some sort of developmental condition such as cerebral palsy, neuromuscular disorders, any kind of lung condition, because they're at risk for getting sicker, as well as elderly people or adults with some sort of chronic medical condition that really affects their immune system. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, how do you get it? This is one of those things that if you walk by an infected person and they sneeze or cough and they don't do a good job of covering their mouths, the droplets can get onto you, inhaled into your mouth, even though I know that's kind of gross, but still. And it's transmitted that way. If you're a kid, especially little babies, they love to slobber over a toy, and then they put it down and another kid comes by and picks it up and puts it in their face. That's another way that it's commonly spread. If you sneeze, touch a doorknob, and then somebody else touches the doorknob and touches their face, it can get passed that way as well. So it's very much like a cold virus can get passed. The third thing you need to know is, how do you treat it? And this is where it kind of gets disappointing. So a lot of times what I've seen when I was in practice is that people come and they have these cold-like symptoms and they feel miserable, but then they want an antibiotic. And the biggest thing you need to know about treating a virus is antibiotics don't work. They only work against bacteria and bacterial illnesses. In RSV, it is possible that you'll get a secondary infection like a bacterial pneumonia, but this is pretty rare and you're usually really, really sick, and probably for at least a good 5 to 7 to 8 days before you would develop a secondary bacterial infection that could require an antibiotic. So antibiotics don't work. There's really not any other kind of medication that's prescribed that will help get over RSV any faster. So it's really good supportive care. What does that mean? It means, like, especially in infants who breathe through their nose and really not their mouths, is you need to do nasal suction to make sure you're clearing away as much mucus from their airways as possible. And you can use a little saline and then suck that out, and it sucks out more of the mucus, which is good. You blow your nose if you're old enough to know how to do so. Certainly taking over-the-counter medications, Tylenol and ibuprofen for any fever, cough drops, cough medicine over the counter to help with a cough or a sore throat. Then there's the good old home remedies that Mom used to tell you, hot tea with lemon or honey to help soothe the throat, that kind of thing. And that's for those mild cases, which is the majority of cases that we see with RSV. The fourth thing you need to know is, how do you prevent it? And really that comes all the way back to just really good hand washing. If you plan to be around an infant, whether it's your child at home or you're going to visit a family member or a friend who has a baby, don't kiss them in the face, especially if you're not sure if you've been exposed. Kiss them on the top of the head, or try not to kiss them at all. Wash your hands before holding the baby, just because they're at most risk for severe disease. If you do experience cold-like symptoms and you can't avoid being around a child or someone with an immunocompromised system, wear a mask. I mean, we did learn that in the COVID pandemic, that masking does help slow the transmission. And it's something that you can do to help others not get sick. There is no vaccine for RSV. Several pharmaceutical companies do have them in the works. Most likely, if there is a vaccine that gets approved by the FDA, it will probably be for more high-risk people with immune-compromising conditions, maybe really, really young children. The jury's still out on that one. We don't have approval yet. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So there's no vaccine. Antibiotics won't work in this case, and it's really just good supportive care, especially making sure young children stay really well hydrated. That's going to be a really big deal. You can also use a cool mist humidifier in your home. That sometimes seems to help. What you need to know is, anytime you use anything like a humidifier in your home, do take it apart occasionally and wash it out with warm soapy water. You want to make sure it stays clean so it doesn't grow mold or get any other, bacteria or anything else in there that could actually cause more of an issue. So then, what's the number 5 thing you need to know? The 5th thing you need to know about RSV is, what do you do if your child or loved one gets really sick, and what does that look like? So in most cases, RSV is mild, but in the case of severe disease, it does affect the lungs. So generally what you see is a lot of shortness of breath and wheezing. It becomes concerning, especially in a young child, if they're not feeding well. So if they're not taking in as much food as they normally do, or they're not drinking as much as they normally do. If you see signs of them being more tired than usual, like basically laying around staring into space and not being responsive to you when you try to interact with them, or if they're really, really, really irritable, they're crying and crying and crying, and you can't get them to calm down. Those are all signs that a child may be getting sicker. With shortness of breath, there are some definite signs you need to look out for. Retractions, which is when they breathe in, the skin around your clavicle sucks in, or in your sternum, when they breathe in, it sucks in, or even between their ribs, you see the air, when they breathe in, it kind of sucks in a little bit. Those are called retractions, and those can be signs that there is a lot more shortness of breath than what may be expected in a mild disease state. Other signs in little children is they can do what we call nasal flaring, and that's when the nostrils kind of flare out when they breathe more so than usual, or if they kind of make a grunting sound when they breathe, may be showing that they're having signs of distress. The thing that you have to worry about, especially in young children with signs like this, is eventually they will tire out, and then they can get into trouble fast. So if you're seeing signs of those things in your children when they have RSV, it's definitely time to get them seen by a doctor. If you can't get in to see a pediatrician, don't wait. go to an urgent care or emergency department where they can be evaluated immediately and, if needed, be admitted to the hospital. So little kids especially can be admitted to the hospital for oxygen support. It's still mostly supportive care, although they can get breathing treatments and other things that you may not be able to do at home. And they just need to be watched very, very carefully. And they usually only have to be in the hospital for a short period of time, those that get really, really sick. But it's still best to make sure that if you feel like your child is in any danger whatsoever, that they get seen. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 things you need to know about RSV. I hope you join us next time. We'll be talking about the influenza virus, and then the common cold virus and what you need to look out for those. And then we're also, hopefully coming up, we'll be doing some more baking. It's the holiday season. And I just want to let everyone know how grateful I am to those people who stop by and watch my videos. It really means a lot to me. I'm extremely thankful to be doing this. It brings me a lot of joy and happiness to try and connect with people, even if it's just online and through social media, to try and help affect your health. And that's it. Thanks for joining me. Hit the like button. Share with friends and family if you feel like this is something that they would find interesting. Drop a comment in the comments section, and remember, any information we discuss in these videos are purely informational in nature and do not indicate anything that should take the place of visits with your regular primary care physician and care team. So, see you next time.